Welcome to 99th Monkey Liberty News for Thursday, September 18th, 2014. Here's an interesting article from InfoWars, and I saw this as a tweet from James Woods this morning as well. Apple will no longer unlock most iPhones, iPads for police, even with search warrants. Unlike our competitors, Apple cannot bypass your passcode and therefore cannot access this data. That's great marketing, and I'd like to think that it's true and that it is good protection. But then there's this interesting technology that allows direct spying on cell phones, direct access, and John McAfee was on Al Jones' show yesterday talking about that technology, these 17 mysterious towers that people thought were cell towers that turn out to not be cell towers. And John McAfee was talking about how they place malware on your phone that gives them access. So my guess is that they can probably still spy on you with this technology, even if you have an iPhone 8. But it's great that Apple, even if they're just ostensibly doing this, it shows that there is a lot of pressure to give us back our privacy that is guaranteed by the Constitution. It was interesting to hear John McAfee talk with Alex yesterday. And he mentioned that he has a website, legalizefreedomcampaign.blogspot.com. Your first line of defense against big. We fight for your right to privacy, security, and freedom. Be informed, be free. And he is asking for volunteers to, independently in communities everywhere, to go to the police in invoking the Freedom of Information Act and ask the police to let all of us know where all of these towers are. And he's so entertaining, such a great, strong personality. I'm glad that he's becoming active like this. It's wonderful to see. And as I was looking for his website, I happened to visit his Twitter page, which is also pretty interesting, and I subscribe to him. So he has a lot of followers, 2,000. Probably will get more and more because people have resources, intelligence, and momentum, drive, and can really accomplish a lot. And this is great. He's going to commit kind of suicide here with a gun. I don't think you could exactly call it suicide with a camera. Great visual joke there. And today is the day this is supposed to happen. China advances gold exchange launch. Singapore delays contract. I'm not aware of whether this actually has happened or not, but Russia and China are launching their own gold market, and I'm not sure if this included silver as well, but certainly this is significant and just really shows us that the rest of the world means in many respects to kind of sidestep the U.S. and the Fed and make its own way. John Rappaport's blog for yesterday, late yesterday, is Breaking CDC Whistleblower, I've Stopped Lying. Just more great information from John Rappaport pertaining to William Thompson. And he is, of course, the CDC whistleblower. And this is about a recording of a telephone call between CDC whistleblower Thompson and Brian Hooker, Ph.D. No date is given. But presumably the call was recorded before August 27. And in this phone conversation, Thompson was heard to say that his boss told him to lie. And this should be snowballing even more than it is. But the information is snowballing, and will it have an impact? Please God, yes. And that is a prayer. So much has come forth that hasn't really breached the wall that's holding the American public back from understanding what's really going on. Hopefully this will, and this is such a personal issue. Everyone who has children will be very passionate about this issue. There's a certain amount of denial that parents probably will stay in because they will not want to admit that they have placed their children in harm's way. But it really must be done. This Band-Aid needs to be pulled off. People must acknowledge that vaccines are dangerous. The CDC knew that they were dangerous, and move forward from there, knowing that big pharma certainly cannot be trusted. From Reuters, this is more information about evil being exposed. Exclusive: Goldman, JPMorgan in Senate's crosshairs for Commodities holdings. So the Senate is taking a look at what has been done, how the banks have overstepped their bounds. And of course, you are probably aware, and this is from Campaign for Liberty, Audit the Fed passes House of Representatives. Audit the Fed passed by a vote of 333 to 92. And this marks the second time the House has passed Audit the Fed as a standalone bill. Another one passed the House in 2012. So it's crucial now for this to pass the Senate and be signed into law. If the vote is high enough, it overrides the necessity for Obama to sign it. And hopefully that will happen. Hopefully this is significant. But the reality is that Congress yesterday, the House of Representatives yesterday, also approved giving money to Syrian rebels to fight ISIS. So it's not all sunshine and roses. On one hand, they're appeasing people who are aware of what's going on with this Audit the Fed, and on the other hand, they are following Obama's counsel and wish and giving money for more bombs, more attacks, more war, more weapons, which of course people who understand what's going on don't want. So I suppose this is a good time to get in touch with the Senate and ask the Senate to pass Audit the Fed and ask the Senate to block more money, more resources being sent toward a Middle East war. From the Daily Caller, Navy SEAL, 90% of troops do not support Obama. And following up with that statement from a Navy SEAL, with a couple of articles from Veterans Today. This article is called PuppetGate, and it's an explanation of how the Federal Reserve controls the country. And there's the picture tells 1,000 words, but there's also an accompanying explanation. And it's helpful in understanding just how the banks do control us. And this is actually meant as the good news of the day, although on the surface it's not really good news because it's about a loss, the history of lost technology. But it's good news because the technology is there, the reality of it exists, and I'm sure there are even people who are aware of it. And a few days ago I was talking about how the wars are and the conflicts are all pretty much around oil and natural gas, and even possibly, I think in my mind it's likely that Ebola in Africa is about killing off Africans to get the natural resources of Africa. And some of those, of course, are energy resources. If we can reignite these energy sources, there's tremendous potential to have energy without oil, without that kind of a burning even. Of course, there's Brown's gas, which is a burning. And there are even more mystical, magical sources of energy. And this article mentions a few, but of course, again, the focus is on the history of lost technology and the fact that NASA probably doesn't have the minds to build an Apollo spaceship at this time to get a person to the moon. But of course, again, the science still exists. It just needs to be, people need to become aware of it. And the stifled patents, I've mentioned before, there are over 6,000 patents that have been stifled, and many of those pertain to energy sources that really could free us completely from what's known as fossil fuels. Oil, natural gas. And in this Puppet article, there is also some good news. It refers to Leo Wanta and what he was planning to do, and of course, unfortunately, how it was sidetracked and derailed, actually. But there's 27+ trillion dollars associated with the name Leo Wanta, and he is struggling to have control of it, and his plan when that happens is to build a high-speed rail from East Coast to West Coast, and this, according to this article, that would create something like, I think, 2 million jobs. And the change that he has left over, he wants to use to pay off a so-called national debt. And here's the build a large state-of-the-art 200-mile-per-hour plus coast-to-coast high-speed Maglev railroad and to pay off the so-called national debt. So there is great potential for good things to happen. And I certainly remain in prayer that they will. And again, there are a lot of signs that they are. And of course, Scotland is voting today for their independence. And that could be some kind of a tipping point. And we have this other news, like the House voting in such large numbers to audit the Fed. And China and Russia working together to break the long-term control of gold and silver markets out of London. Thank you for tuning in for today's 99th Monkey Liberty News. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Hoping that you will love one another, take care, and insist on liberty.